Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm super excited about this. I'm finally going to be able to talk about where I am at with Arakni Marionette, kind of give you my day zero list and talk about some of the learnings I've had with this hero, because I've been no-lifing this hero off stream, like off videos, trying to get it into a spot where I am comfortable showing it with other people. And I have some, different takes, and I'm super excited to share them with you all and see what you all think as well. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Discord down below, as well as the channel membership. If you want to support the channel in a different way, it's greatly appreciated. But if not, if you're new to my channel, or if you are, getting into Flesh and Blood content, there is a Google Sheet down below with a list of like 100 creators with all their hyperlinks to their channels. Definitely go check them out. Have some fun with it, and we'll get into it. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a long video. This is going to be a long video because we're just going to talk about this hero as well as the list. But I'm going to give you some learnings, excuse me, that I've had. And we're going to talk about interactions with this hero, because this hero is, in my opinion, the most complicated assassin to play. And it's not particularly close, at least from my experience. I have some wild things in here. So the first thing I'm going to talk about a few points that I've figured out. And then we'll talk about the cards and the list itself. So for the one thing, there is one very key card that you notice is not in this deck. It's very similar to Arakni Slip Through the Cracks or Solitary Confinement. There's no Command and Conquer in this list. Command and Conquer is Command and Conquer. It's a great card. I'm not saying the card sucks or it's not good, but I almost never want to be playing Command and Conquer in this deck. When you're in the base Marionette form, you want to be abusing this +1 go again as much as humanly possible. So the only time and you want to also either keep them marked, either they stay marked and you transform, or if they are marked, you want to have a severe on hit, and you typically want to do it on a 2-card hand. It depends on how it goes. Basically, you're wanting to abuse this as much as you can and be as aggressive as you can with your assassin cards. Because of that, the only time Command and Conquer really comes into play in the base form, and it's a little bit weird, it all depends on how you look at it, but is when you do something to the effect of, you have a 4-card hand. Let's say your hand is Mark of the Black Widow, I don't know, Infect, Command and Conquer, and another random card that you use to pitch. You play Hunter's Clave, you mark them, then you play, let's just say, Infect for 0 for 4, on hit go again. Let's say it's a Syndra, and they don't care about your card, and they say, screw you, I'm not blocking. So they take this, you get go again, and then you use your 4th card to pitch Command and Conquer, and, they're no longer marked, and then you threaten that. So you did a 4-card 10, 12 technically with Infect, and you have a severe on-hit at the end. But the reason that isn't as useful anymore is because people have played against Assassin enough now to know how to play around the arsenal. Whether they choose just not to arsenal in general, which is good for you for Codex turns, but it is what it is, or they know to only arsenal specific pieces of their deck. They don't arsenal power cards, whatever the case may be. Other than the 6 damage, Command and Conquer isn't as useful as it used to be. Now, they still can't defense react on it, but it just doesn't go with the base Marionette ability and what you're trying to do with that ability. You're trying to pump attacks. You're trying to give them go again with the marked if it hits, all this type of stuff. And Command and Conquer is just, it's not going to be buffed unless you're running like a Spicy Pummel or something. So it just kind of, like, especially on a 2-card hand, it really sucks. Like, because whether you're in the Demi Hero or the Marionette, because it used to be like, pitch of blue, Spider's Bite, then you Tunic and you CNC, or Codex CNC, whatever the case may be, but it made it harder to block. Well, with Hunter's Clave, it's not as useful. So the card's just a little bit awkward. I didn't like it particularly. You could definitely put it in the list. It's a powerful card, and depending on how you like to structure your play patterns, it's totally fine. I just didn't prefer it. Also, on transform turns, the card is terrible unless you got lucky and you went into red back and you can do some 4-card hand where you do, like, Kiss of Death, and you discard an assassin card to give it +3 go again, and then you end by pitching a blue, swinging with Command and Conquer, and you did a 4-card 13. That could be useful, but if you're not going into red back, it really sucks. It hurts what you're trying to do. You're trying to give +3, but you have to discard assassin cards to do that. So it normally makes your hands very wonky. So all I have to say, I didn't enjoy Command and Conquer in the list, so I took it out, which should help a lot of people because it lowers the price of the deck by literally $300. So there's that. The second thing is, excuse me, I've been talking a lot the last few days. The second thing is, I never thought I'd say it's about an assassin list ever. I don't particularly like Leave No Witnesses, and I honestly don't even like Surgical Extraction. Now, Surgical's in the list, but I'll tell you why I don't like it here in a second. Leave is the easier one. Very similar to Command and Conquer. Actually, almost the same reasons as Command and Conquer. Its codex target is less impactful because you don't have Spire's Bite. It doesn't really go with Arakni's Marionette's base ability. You can't buff it with any of your buffs. You can't buff it with Stains of the Redback. This cares about stealth cards. You can't buff it, obviously, with Toxin because it doesn't only buffs daggers, but you also can't shred it. You can't buff it with two sides of the blade. You can't buff it with Take Up the Mantle. So, there's literally no way to buff this card in Marionette's base ability. In Marionette's other abilities, or as demi-hero, they're demi-heroes, you can buff it, but you're not going to get the on-hits. You're not going to get the Go Again from Redback. You're not going to get the on-hit Banish a card from Widow or Funnel Web, any of that stuff, right? And you're not even going to get the +3 from Orb Weaver. So it has very anti-synergy with what you're trying to do. It still is a good codex target, though. There are some times where, depending on what my hand structure is, if my opponent is marked or not, things of that nature when I'm playing codex, there might be times where I want to go get Leave No Witnesses. It's better than Mark of the Funnel Web Red, and so I still have one on the list for that reason. But for some of the reasons I just mentioned, it's just not as useful as it used to be, right? So we still have one on the list for good codex target, but that's about it. Surgical Extraction, we're keeping in the list because at the end of the day, it's Surgical Extraction. But in Marionette's base ability, it's very annoying. It doesn't get the +1 Go Again. There's no... If you're playing against an Arakni Marionette, unless they have Shred on the list... if you think about it, let's look at the assassin attack reactions. I told you it's gonna be a long video, and I'm gonna try to be as quick as I can, but I want to make this a point. Is let's look at the normal cards that are actually going to be in a Marionette list that isn't like jank that will get around buffing or helping Surgical. Obviously, Shred's a big one. None of the spikes work. Incision doesn't work. No one's gonna have Cut to the Chase on their list unless it's just someone crazy trying to play Arakni Marionette like Arakni Huntsman or something. None of these do it. Literally none of these. We're still looking down. Nothing's going to buff it. The only thing you could really do is Spreading Plague it if you try to overblock or something. A Conceal Blade, I guess, you could hit for 5. But all I have to say, it just isn't going to get buffed in the base ability. And the biggest thing about Surgical that made it so scary in Arakni Marionette or anybody is being able to buff it or shred it or go make it more than 4 power. And so in the base ability, you basically know, okay, I just block 4 in this 9 times out of 10, unless they have a spicy Conceal Blade or something, or a Shred isn't going to do anything. And that's why I've honestly thought about putting Shred back in the list. I just don't know where I'd find space for it. But Surgical's a lot less scary in the base ability. In the demi-hero abilities, you can give them +3, which is a lot better than Leave No Witnesses. Giving a Surgical +3, I no longer... Not that I don't care. I care less about these abilities. I just care about getting the +3. But at the same time, it doesn't get the +3 in Orb Weaver's ability. It doesn't get the +3 in Tarantula, and Trapdoor doesn't give it anything, right? The only time it gets a +3 is off of Redback, Funnel Web, or Widow. So all I have to say, the card is still good. It's still you have to block this, or I'm going to take a card from your hand anyway. But it's a lot less scary because you don't have the daggers that make blocks worse, and you don't have buffs to help buff it. So all I'd say that's where I'm at with Leave No Witnesses and Surgical. We'll talk about Mark the Prey here in a second when we go into the cards. I'm looking at my notes really fast, make sure I don't forget. We'll talk about Orb Weaver when we get into the cards. The other last thing I found is I'd almost rather be a Marionette's base ability than the demi-heroes from a competitive standpoint. The +1 on-hit Go Again when an opponent is marked is extremely powerful. It gives you a lot of flexibility in what you're doing. It allows you to play out 4-card hands more easy. It allows you to know, if you know you're going into Marionette on your next turn, you're able to use your blocks a little bit more effectively. You don't have to hold cards as much. Now, Marionette is the most aggressive assassin by far. This hero does not want to block a ton. You can, but it doesn't want to. But the reason I like Marionette sometimes over the Demis is because the Demis like force you to hold at least 3 cards. If you have a stealth card and a good reaction, you want to hold 3 cards. Like if I have Stains of the Red, if I go into Black Widow, which right is the best one most of the time, and I have a Kiss of Death and a Stains of the Redback. Well, if I want to use Black Widow's ability, I have to hold a 3rd card. So basically, when I go to the end of my turn and I transform into Black Widow, I am telling myself, okay, depending on what I draw up here, I only can block with 1 card. And your opponent sometimes knows that. They know that you want to hold cards to utilize these abilities to the best they can. Now, it's still a very good play, right? Like playing Kiss of Death, playing Stains of the Redback on it, or even Tarantula Toxin, right? Giving it +3 and then discarding for Widow. You are swinging for 9. It's very powerful with the on hits. But overall, unless you're doubling up with like a Mark of the Black Widow, I don't know. It's just, it kind of forces you into certain play lines when you transform, whereas with Marionette, it's a lot more flexible. Not like night and day. I'm not saying I don't want to transform, but that's just something I've found with the deck. So all to say, that's like the base level points I have. And we'll kind of talk about now some of the more like some of the card niche and stuff. So I'm gonna look over my notes here, make sure I don't miss anything. So for the equipment, I was on the new chess piece, and I think you still could play the new chess piece. I won't fault anybody for it. I just like Tunic for plays with 2 sides of the blade, being able to play, because I do have 2 sides of the blade in the list now, and I'll talk about that in a second, but being able to play like an Art of Desire Body, activate Tunic, play 2 sides of the blade, and I don't have to flick a knife in order to gain a counter with my chest, does really help me out. It also helps the Stains of the Redback when they're not marked. I just want to be able to play these reactions off of Tunic, and so because of that, I went to Tunic more so than the new chest. But the new chest is awesome. I love it. It's just for my list. Once I put these cards in it, I had to go to Tunic, in my opinion, just the way it happened. For the headpiece, Mask of Deceit is so good. I love this card so much. One, just blocking with it and going into a Ram Demi Hero is so much fun. But it actually has a lot of cool utility to it, depending on what you want to do, right? Like if your opponent's marked, it's really weird because your opponent's not going to get marked on their turn, and you're not. Basically, you either use this when you transformed into something you don't want to transform into and your opponent's still marked, or you can have a way of marking them through like Reaper's Call or something, or maybe like Lair of the Spider. But regardless, you can do a couple cool things with this. One, from an offensive perspective, you can block 2 with this and like go into Widow, right? And then be able to utilize some crazy hand or Redback. But also, this is like a mini Carrion Husk. And I know everyone always uses that example on like really good block value equipment, but it really is, because if you can mark your opponent with like, let's say your opponent's going to have a crazy pop-off turn, you're able to mark your opponent with like a Lair of the Spider or something like that, and then you play Mask of Deceit. Now they're marked, or you block with Mask of Deceit, then you transform willingly into Trapdoor. Since they're marked, you pick Trapdoor, you go get a Frailty Trap, then you play Frailty Trap, right? You just block 5 with something, right? You basically fetch yourself 3 more block, and that can be very useful on turns where your opponent's really trying to go off. Maybe a Zen or like a Syndra is having this crazy like 25 plus damage turn. It really allows you to make the most of your blocks, and there are times where you want to use it defensively. So it has a lot of flexibility. Super good card. At worst, it blocks 2 and is going to give you some type of positive effect. Really love the card. Flick Knives is Flick Knives. I'm not even going to go over this. This card's insane. It has crazy interactions with Kiss of Death. It has cool interactions with Chelicera, and some of the Demi Heroes and Kiss of Death. Really, really cool card. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Snapdragon Scalers. I was on Black Text, and I don't think I even have Black Text on the side anymore. I do not. I just want to be snappy more times than not. You're never, not never, you rake very few silver in this deck. If ever you make 2. The breakpoint block is nice, but what's also nice is being able to just snap when I need to, because I will have some turns that's like, just some like go wide turns where it's like pitch a blue, you Hunter's Clave, marking them, then you play like Art Desire Body for 0-4 on hit go again. They say no block, screw you. You get go again, then you play something like, Mark of the Prey, whatever. 0 for 3, you snap. Let's say they try to block it, or not even Mark of the Prey. Let's say you play something a little bit more threatening, like Mark of the Black Widow, and they know that you can flick knives to mark it. Then they block 4, you snap it. They're still, and then you play something else like another Mark of the Black Widow. It just allows you to do like these 3 wide stealth attacks, especially when your opponent doesn't respect you. So because of that, I've been liking having Snapdragon Scalers a little bit more, but I could see Black Text very easily. This deck's not hard to hit like Arakni Huntsman was, so Black Text can work pretty well as well. So that's where I'm at with this. We're almost on 200 claves, no other ones. You want to be marking as constantly as possible. You're eventually going to be flicking one of these away, potentially for Cholicera. So because of that, I have to think to say that word every time. So because of that, you're running 2 of these. Getting into the list, I wanted to have as many 0 for 3 stealths as I could. That made sense because I want to be able to have Marionette's base ability hit that break point as much as I can. So we have Our Desire Body. I think it's going to be pretty good in this meta. We have all these Draconic heroes coming in. Arakni Marionette's going to be running a lot of 0 for 3s. New runs, some good decent reds. Viscerai runs some reds. You have even Vincent, if she comes in, is going to be more red line. I know I'm saying random heroes, but Ira runs a good amount of reds. She runs 21 blues, but the rest are pretty much red. So you're getting this draw effect a good amount. And being able to, this is a really cool card on 2-card hands because if you pitch a blue to Clave, then you play this. You tell your opponent, hey, yes, you're going to get rid of the mark, but I'm going to potentially draw a card, which could help because then you could pitch into Clave again, ending on a mark if they don't respect that second Clave with the card you just drew, and then you transform anyway, or you could arsenal it, get a good arsenal target, or you could throw another attack like an infect, whatever the case may be. I really enjoy this, especially if you draw into a codex. It's just dumb. So that one's really good. Infect, this is when your opponent is marked, this is a on hit 0 for 6 because you're 0 for 4 plus the 2 blood rot. So no matter what, you're getting 6 to 7 value on this card if it hits when your opponent's marked because either they're pitching likely an entire blue to pay for the blood rot, in which case you just got a card value from them, or they're dealing the 2 damage anyway. It's a 0 for 6. Justin Nick, I've been really enjoying. I like it because I'm running blue Mark of the Black Widow as well as Persuasive Bonds. So being able to have those targets, there's even times, honestly, where I have take up the mantle plays, right? Where, you play something very monotonous, like a Reaper's Call or like Under the Trap Door, and they're probably sniffing a take up the mantle, which is fine. But then you play something like Justinic to give it +5. Then you play Take Up the Mantle when they're marked to give it +3, switching into a Bonds of Agony. And then you activate Flick Knives to mark them, right? Or not mark them, but you do Flick Knives, then Mantle. So it allows you to have good synergy with that. So even though you don't want to play it on a Reaper's Call or Trapdoor, you can alongside other things just to, up your damage ceiling, utilize Take Up the Mantle really well. I enjoy the card. Kiss of Death. This card's crazy. This card is so cool. It's a 0. Again, it's a 0 for 5 when it's marked if it hits. It also gives you double duty if it has Go Again in any way, whether you snap it, whether it gets Go Again from Marionette, from Stains of the Redback, from the Redback Demi, whatever the case may be. Because if this hits, they lose a life. Then if you flick it away, they lose 2 life. So this, at base, or at best on Marionette's ability, this is a 0 for 4 on hit. It becomes a 0 for 5. Then you flick it, it becomes a 0 for 7, right? Extremely high value card. It can be buffed and shredded with Tarantula Toxin. It also is really cool because it can help trigger the Demi Hero abilities, right? If you can give this Go Again with your snaps or some other way, maybe Stains of the Redback, let's say you go into there, you transform into Widow, you don't block. Then you play Kiss of Death. Let's say they want to play around let's just say you're gonna discard to buff it. You have a 3-card hand. You have Kiss of Death. You have, I don't know, any card, doesn't matter. Pick up the point, and another throwaway card that's not a reaction. Maybe like a Mark the Prey. You play Kiss of Death. You discard the either one of these to give a +3 for 6. Let's say they block 6 because they're trying to block out your buff. You Snapdragon Scalers. You play Pick Up the Point. You flick away Kiss of Death because the way it reads, which Black Widow says, target assassin tag gets +3 if it has stealth. When it hits a hero, they banish a card from their hand. Since you can flick away the Kiss of Death and has stealth, then they're going to get the on-hit banished from Black Widow anyway. So super cool there. Love this card. Skip Leave No Witnesses. We talked about that. Mark of the Black Widow. I was just on the reds, but I've put in the blues. It has some good synergy with Justice. When they're marked, it's a 2 power, which means if you buff it by any of these, like 0 for 3 buffs, it becomes 5, which means it gets over a breakpoint defense reaction, and it gives you a little bit more disruption in the deck. Mark the Prey. This is a card that I came onto, not by accident, but I was not playing this card for a bit. And then I realized how cool it is. It has some really unique interactions, both in Marionette and in the Demi Heroes. In Marionette, this says, the base dilemma that Marionette gives you when you attack with a marked attack is saying, okay, either you let this hit and you get rid of the mark, but you get the on hit, or you don't let this hit and I transform into something powerful and you just potentially gave up 2 cards, right? Like on a base, you pitch a blue to Hunter's Clave and then you play Our Desire Body for 0 for 4. You tell yourself, like, even if I have no other cards in hand, if this hits, yes, you get rid of your mark, but I just got a 0 for 4, potentially drew a card, and gained a life. So, but your opponent might be like, you know what, that's least impactful than you transforming. I don't want you to transform, so just let this hit. Well, Mark of the Prey basically says, like, okay, I'm gonna deal 4 damage to you if you don't block this, and you're gonna stay marked. So on a 2-card hand, this is really good because it tells your opponent, like, do you just want to take 4 to the face and I still get a powerful transformation? That sucks. Also, it helps because this says, okay, on a 3-card hand, this is a 0 for 4, and then if you don't respect it, then I could come in with another card that also, since you're still marked, right, has an on hit. And because Marionette's ability doesn't say the first stealth attack when they're marked, it says any stealth attack. So it says your attacks with stealth that are attacking a marked hero get +1, and when it hits, it gets go again. So if you Hunter's Clave with a blue, play Mark the Prey for 0 for 4 on hit go again, they don't respect it, then you come in with Mark the Black Widow, that also has 0 for 4 on hit go again. Right, so you can really have these cool go wide plays with Mark of the Prey. It's a good extender. It blocks 3, and you want to be marking your hero as much as humanly possible, and always putting your opponent in that dilemma on the base ability of, okay, do you care about this or not? Also, it helps take up the mantle even more. Like on wider turns, you can pick where you want to play mantle, which is really, really helpful. So I really enjoy the card. I think it's really good. Then we have Orb Weaver Spinneret. I've been on and off this card. I'm trying to figure out, the best use cases for it. Getting a Chelicera, again, have to think of that. That word is the bane of my existence. Getting one of those daggers early really helps because obviously it turns on a lot of your Demi Hero abilities. And it's really cool on turns like a Black Widow turn, right? Like you've already flicked away a card, or you have an open slot. You play Orb Weaver Spinneret, give your next stealth +3. You have, let's say, you would have to have 3 more cards. So on a 4-card hand, you have Orb Weaver, a blue, a throwaway card, and then any attack, like a pick up the point. So Orb Weaver, pick up the point. Let's just say you have something like a Reaper's Call and a blue, right? You play the Orb Weaver, equip the Chelicera token, then that Chelicera, since it has stealth on it, is going to get +3. You pitch that blue, so now your Chelicera is coming in for 4. Go again because the hero is marked likely, right? If you're going into a Demi Hero, more times than not, they're marked. And you tell your opponent, okay, I can discard one of my last 2 cards and make this 7. So maybe they want to fully block that out, and they block 7. They block with like a card and a D-react. Then you play like a pick up the point for 0 for 3. You flick away the Chelicera anyway, and then it still triggers the Black Widow effect, right? Some really cool interactions there. So because of that, I've been trying to use it. And at worst, it's a buff, right? Being able to pitch a dagger, marking a hero, then you play this, and all of a sudden Kiss of Death or Mark of the Black Widow is coming in for 7. On hit, banish a card from their hand. Like, they banish a card. Pretty good. So really enjoy that. Pan the backside, very similar to Kiss of Death. This card has some funny interactions with Chelicera. and with Kiss of Death, because if you're in a Demi that cares about, the +3 on hit, if you buff a Chelicera and they block it out, but then you play Pain in the Backside, you give them like the ultimate lose-lose situation. You can either flick Chelicera, or if they block it, or if they don't block Pain in the Backside, you just choose Chelicera on the chain as the dagger that hits and deals a damage to them, because it says when this hits a hero, target dagger you control deals 1 damage to them. If it is dealt this way, the dagger is hit. So your Chelicera that you just swung with, if they don't block this, you just flick that dagger and it doesn't break, flick it and it doesn't break, and then you trigger the Demi hero ability. If they do block it, you flick knives it anyway, and it still triggers the Demi hero ability. So you put your opponent in like these stupid lose-lose situations. Really love the card. And on a normal Marionette turn, you lead with this and you say, okay, if you don't block this, I'm just going to mark, right? Because it's going to hit first, then you're going to hit with a dagger and it's going to mark them. Then you can go into something like a Black Widow. So you can have a 2-card 7, 2-card 8, technically counting the 1 damage with an on hit. So really, really good. Pick up the point. I have this in just for a little bit more retrieve mechanic. There are times, and what I'm seeing with some Marionette players is they're flicking away their claves too quickly or at the wrong time, and then they don't see a retrieve quick enough, or like a conceal blade or whatever they're doing, and it just screws them. This is to help you, get that dagger back if you need it. You're going to be flicking daggers a good amount. I've almost thought about going up to 3 on this card just to have it. It does help you go wider against decks like Enigma, which is really nice. Really enjoy the card. Good for getting those daggers back. Save Your Bloodshed's really good. I want to go on 3 of these. I may end up trying to find space for it. I might go down to 2 Orb Weaver Spinnerets and go up to 3 Save Your Bloodsheds, because this card is just so good. Being able to say your next dagger attack gets +4 the next time you hit a marked hero with a dagger this turn, draw a card. Like, at worst, what you can do with this card is play it, even if they're not marked. You swing with a clave. It would end up being, math is hard, 5. You're not marked, but then you flick knives the other clave, dealing damage. Now they are marked, and then that 5-power dagger hits. If they didn't block it, then you draw a card, right? So you just deal 6 damage and drew a card, so that's really nice. It also is just really good because it has good synergy with Tarantula, has good synergy with Kiss of Death, because it just says your next dagger attack, so it'll give Kiss of Death +3. So when they're marked, Kiss of Death basically says on Marionette's base ability, this is a 8 power, because it gets +1 from Marionette, +4 from Save Your Bloodshed, 8 power, on hit, go again, on hit, draw a card. That's so good, and I love the card for that reason. It's just so good. Then we have Stains of the Redback. This is just a really good glue piece. This is a 3 of. When they're marked, it's free. It's a free hiss when they're marked. Target stealth gets +3 and go again. That's unconditional, right? So you don't have to pitch a blue. You don't have to do anything crazy. You just get the cost reduction if they're marked. So this card's really good for those go wide turns, both in the base ability and in the Demi Hero ability. My favorite Demi Hero still is Redback for that very reason. Just being able to go wide in this deck is so useful. Tarantula Toxin, amazing synergy with Kiss of Death. It basically, with Kiss of Death, reads +3 shred. Really, really good. It can help. It's basically a Razor Reflex for in-games with daggers. It has really good synergy with Tarantula. Again, you're able to play like these stupid 8-power Tarantula hands, which is just nuts. Really, really good in the in-game. And then 2 sides of the blade, I want to find space for a 3rd of this card. Again, similar to Mark the Prey, having your opponent marked every attack, or as much as you can, is so important. And when you tell your opponent, pitch a clave, let's say on a 4-card hand, pitch a blue, you clave, they hit, play Kiss of Death, 0 for 4. On hit, go again. You have 2 cards left in hand. Let's say your cards are Mark of the Black Widow, just best case scenario, and 2 sides of the blade, and you have 1 floating. You play 2 sides of the blade on top of Kiss of Death, and on hit, it's going to mark them again. So Kiss of Death goes up to 7. They didn't block the full 7 because that's just a lot of block to ask. Kiss of Death hits. The mark goes away, but then comes back with 2 sides of the blade. Then you attack with Mark of the Black Widow for 4. You just did a 4-card 11 with multiple on hits, 4-card 12 with Kiss of Death's ability, 4-card 13, 14 if you flick it. So you just did a 4-card 14, which is super high rate for Assassin, because Kiss of Death's going to come in for 7, on hit 8. Mark of the Black Widow is going to come in for 4. Then you flick the Kiss of Death, deal an additional 2. So yeah, 4-card 14. I just want to be able to mark my opponents as much as possible. This is very good in Marionette's base ability because it allows them to do double marked attacks, which is just what you want to be doing. Codex is Codex. Card's stupid. Take Up the Mana. We've talked about this card. Really good. You turn a monotonous, Reaper's Call or a, even an Infect into a Bonds of Agony. That's all I really need to say about that card. It does really well. And then blues, we're only running 15. I was at 12, but Under the Trapdoor, I've seen a lot of people running this card, and honestly, I've gotten peer pressured into running this card. It is very good. Being able to discard and then go get a tech piece. Normally, I side one of these in every match. I'm almost never at a clean 60. I'm at like 63. But I've been enjoying the card a lot, and I can see why it's very powerful. In the sideboard, this is just a me sideboard. This is for my local meta. If I was going to a big event, I might make it a little bit more generic, hence the AB3. We have Kano players and Verdansk players and, good lord, and Acilio players in our meta, and so I need the AB3. This could easily be AB1. If you were going to AB1 it, I honestly would probably do Widow of the Black Abdomen. I want to have the head and legs, and Tunic is only really super useful on Clave Codex turns or using two sides of the blade or Stains of the Redback. So I would definitely use the chest piece if anything. I'm running 3 snags. I anticipate us seeing a lot of Assassin in this meta, so just snag is very good. Shelter of the Storm card's cracked. You could go down to a 2 of, I think, though, if you wanted to make space for something else. And then I have a good amount of traps. I think there's going to be a lot of go again in this meta. Assassins have a lot of go again now. Syndra's going to be in the meta. Viscerai can get a good amount of go again with Runedrager, Swarm, Syndra, Zen, Assassins, Viscerai. There's a whole lot of stuff. So I think these are really good. You could use Inertia Trap if you really think that's going to be more useful. But I do like having, again, more Mark Synergy. So that is the list. Hopefully that was a good enough video. It was 31 minutes. One of the longer deck techs I've done. You can tell that I've been trying my best to make this hero into a playable spot. Hopefully some of my inclusions made sense, but if they didn't, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is a super intricate hero, as you can hear from even some of the base level interactions. I'd love to get your base level thoughts on it and see where you all want to take the hero. Super excited about it. I already have my Arakni Marionette Marvel pre-ordered. It's coming this week on release. Shout out to Hamal, Harambe TCG. Go buy from Hamal. Hamal is an amazing human. I also am going to trade today at a pre-release for a Marvel Funnel Web. So I'm already, 2 out of the 7 Marvels I need, even before day 1 of release. So that's really fun. But yeah, super excited about it. Going to be playing the crap out of this deck. It's going to be the main deck I play, this deck in Ira. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Try my best to work hard and give you all the best videos I can. If you don't like my content, though, or if you're new to the game and want to see other content, like I said at the beginning of the video, go down below. Go to the Google Sheet. There's like 100+ creators on there. Go watch their stuff. Go have some fun with it. I would love to hear who your favorite creator is. That's not me if it is me. If it isn't me, that's fine. Let me know who it is. I'd love to hear it. But thank y'all so much. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk.